if you want to play bass in your church worship band, your church needs a bass player and they don't have one, you are a guitar player, and so you want to help out. That's what this video is about. It's for beginners. So those of you that are into the deep details, please just chill out, relax. This is not intended to be thorough. It's just a beginner thing, okay? So you want to play bass in your church worship band. Super easy, easiest job in the whole worship band. Anybody can do it. If you have two hands and half of a musical inclination, you can do this. And so the first requirement is a bass. There are 4-string basses, 5-string, 6-string, but we're going to start with a plain, normal 4-string bass. And what you have is the same top 4 strings as are on your guitar. So you have E, A, D, and G. And the good news about that is that means if you know the notes of the fretboard on your guitar, you already know them on the bass. The only other thing you need, sunglasses. Very important when playing bass because it's cool and you have to look cool. Okay, so moving right along. The next big controversy is always play with your fingers or play with the pick. So here's my opinion on that. If you've never played bass before, start with a pick, because that's what you're used to, and work in your practice times playing with your fingers, okay? To really get good at bass, you have to play with your fingers. I wholeheartedly believe that. But early on, it might be just easier for you to play with a pick. You also noticed probably that when I play with my thumb versus playing with the pick, you can hear the more pronounced attack that you get with the pick. So early on, if you're just starting out, playing with a pick is probably the way to go. So you have the same fretboard setup as your guitar. It's an octave down, okay? If you're looking around the stage at the other instruments trying to figure out what you're doing, the left hand of your piano player, for example, is down in the range where you're playing on the bass. But you're not going to do what they're doing. You're going to be listening to the drummer and being part of the rhythm section. So you can't really play bass if you have no sense of rhythm. Like if you can't count to 4 at a steady clip, bass may not be for you. And unfortunately, if you don't know the notes of the fretboard, you will struggle playing the bass because you'll turn into that pitch tracking guy that every worship team loves, who's on the wrong note and just tries to slide up till he finds it. And the problem is that by the time you find the right note, the band has moved on to the next chord. So take the time to learn the notes of the fretboard, listen to your drummer, and find a groove in there based on that. So what it looks like is this. We've always talked about the worship leader home row, right? The songs that are G, D, E minor, and C. Well, on the bass, G, D, E, C. So when you look at your chord sheet for your band and they're playing a G chord, on the bass you're playing a G note. When they're playing D, you're playing D. So that's how easy it is. If you're looking at the chord sheet, there are some changes with that because sometimes you'll see a common one is a D/F sharp. And D over F sharp means that they're playing a D chord, but they're playing it over an F sharp bass note. And so when you see those chord symbols, you're going to play what is to the right of the slash, and in those situations the bass line will depart from what the chord structure is of the song. But most of the time, if he's playing G, you're playing G. D, E minor, C. So what you have to do then, that's how simple finding the note is. The big thing is finding the rhythm on the drum kit that you're going to match so that you're part of the rhythm section. The beginning of playing bass is just whole notes, pedal tones, some people call them. G is happening, D is happening, E is happening, band is singing la 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 la, C is happening. That'll help if you have no bass at all in your band. That's a good place to start. But where you want to move along to is listening to the drummer and finding something on the drum rhythm that's happening that you can match your bass playing to and start creating a little bit of a groove. Now again, for those of you that are technical and deep, this is going to be way too simple, and I know that, so please don't freak out. But if you're just starting, you might look over at your drum player and figure out that he's got every other beat he's doubling up on the kick, and you might decide to match him and do something where you're going that awesome? So what you're doing is finding something in the drum beat that you can match to, okay? On a really slow song, it might be whole notes that are just ringing out. On a faster song, sometimes you'll hear quarters happening. And if your band has an 80s flavor at all, which all good bands do have an 80s flavor, then somewhere in there you get to do the eighth notes. And so you're finding something in your drum beat that you can match to, so that you begin to create a little bit of a groove with your drummer. The next thing you want to do to try to help it be kind of cool is you want to find the alternate notes so that you can move it around some. So if this is G right here, well, we also know this is a G right here. And this open down here is a G. And so that lets you move that G note around, and you can have a little bit of fun with it, because you might go, and that was all still just G, D, E minor, C, but finding the alternate notes to kind of give it a little bit of motion. Sliding up to the high octave is a lot of fun on a bass, and a lot of the players, the young players, are doing that now for different parts of the song. So when you're doing the verse of the song, you might be down here, like we've been talking about, doing the normal thing. But when it's time to go to the chorus of the song, you might come and grab the G notes and stuff that are up here on the high end. And that adds just a little bit. It just moves you into a different register of all the frequencies, and sometimes that adds a lot of energy to the song. When you listen to music, start listening for the bass part, you'll hear a lot of different things happening. Slides, little bits of vibrato. You'll start to hear where guys are doing an octave, because that's like this is a D note and this is too. And so you'll hear them sometimes. Different things that are going on in the bass line. But the basics of bass, that's what we should call the whole video. The basics of bass is, if it's a G chord, you're playing a G note, and then you're finding a rhythm happening on your drum set. So if you're a guitar player and you switch to bass to help your band out, one of the things that happens right away is that you know how to play really crazy cool riffs that really make you sound like a great bass player, whether you are or not. That's the beauty of playing bass. People are so used to it being simple that if you throw in one guitar move, all of a sudden you sound like $1 million. So it's an easy place to shine. Just put on your shades, listen to your band, find a groove with your drummer, play the right note, be in tune, and you'll go a long ways towards being a really cool, awesome bass player in your church worship band. So one quick thought about sound. Bass can usually not be boomy on the stage, so it's real possible your sound man will not want your amp just cranked, because bass frequencies have a tendency to just swallow up other stuff and start making the mix muddy. So watch for that. If your sound is getting muddy, maybe turn up the highs and the mids a little bit on your amp and cause a little bit more of those frequencies to come out. You might have to plug straight into the system and just listen to yourself in a monitor. We've covered this in other videos before. Just be a servant, have a good attitude, lay down the bass riff, and start having some fun with it. You'll have a good time, and you'll help your band out. So this has been the basics of bass. Now there's just one more thing. Don't only listen to worship music. I know there's a collective gasp right there. We should only listen to worship music. No, worship music gets a little boring sometimes because it's all the same. So if you're getting into bass and you want to really hear bass players that tear it up, you might have to venture out into some secular music, dear Jesus help us, and listen to some other players. The guy that plays for ZZ Top is awesome. The guy who plays in Rush, Geddy Lee, is amazing. There's other good bass players. So if you're wanting to really hear bass playing, you know, because when you get into some ZZ Top, man, and you can even start singing that in your church. I just got paid today, got me a pocket full of change. Your pastor will love that. So, have a good time, play the bass, be a servant, keep worshiping Jesus. We'll talk to you later.